Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk about Doctor Strange and in particular his new uniform because I made some rather lofty claims about it offhandedly in a video or in a couple of videos, saying that his new uniform's first skill, the Rings of Ragador, has an ignore iframe, and I played it off as not too big of a deal, but in actuality it is a very big deal. So for those of you who don't have this uniform yet and are kind of on the fence about it, I'm probably going to make a really compelling argument right now. For those of you that already have it and maybe haven't really tapped into its full potential, I'm going to show you how to do that. But first, what we have to do is discuss what an ignore iframe really is. And it's pretty basic. We can use a character like Nova or Cyclops because they are currently the only two characters that have it built into their stats, or into their skills, sorry, without uniforms. There is one more character that has ignore iframe, but it's specific to their uniform. On the skill for Nova and for Cyclops, the orange text enables the ignore targeting effect. And what that does is ignore targeting is the exact same as an ignore iframe. Even when an enemy is doing a skill that gives them the red X on their character and normally makes them completely untargetable, the ultimate kind of defensive, offensive attack kind of skill, they will still take damage from that skill. In Nova's case, it's his second skill. In Cyclops' case, it is his third skill. And it doesn't matter whether you change Cyclops' uniform. It doesn't matter if you get rid of Cyclops' uniform. He's always had this ability. So it's actually quite strong for Cyclops, but it just doesn't do enough damage on its own. But maybe in the future, Cyclops will be a very meta character. So that is kind of a sleeper pick for those of you who are maybe curious about characters they can build up that could be very good in the future. With just a few changes to his uniform with the new update and this skill doing more damage, it's got a 100% chance to penetrate everything. So you're never safe from this skill. Sorry, I just had to do a really quick shout out to Scott. The only other character that has it is Winter Soldier, but only with his new uniform because it buffs him with the ignore targeting effect. But let's get into Doctor Strange because he inhabits a very unique position. There is no mention anywhere on this page, there's no mention here on the skill of the effect, ignore targeting. Usually down in the usage tips, which are right here, it will also sometimes hint at the ignore targeting or something similar. It does not. And even when you go over to the uniform list and you go over to the uniform effect, it also does not list it. So it's completely unlisted. So now I want to take you guys into some very basic PvP so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm just going to jump in against one of the top characters. It doesn't really matter who I fight. I think Thanos is a great example because Thanos has a lot of long iframes, and especially his fourth skill where he drags his arm back to summon those meteors. That's a great example of his iframes being in use, and it would be a great example of seeing Doctor Strange kind of destroy his iframes. So we're just going to take in with any team. It doesn't matter whatsoever. We're just going to slightly change around. I want Doctor Strange to take less damage so he can last longer because this isn't going to be a regular fight where I'm trying to kill Thanos. I'm just going to do my best to show you this effect. So here we go, and it's only on his first skill, but you'll see that the power of this ignore targeting effect is even stronger than we would have thought. So right now he's iframing, and you can see there that I was able to cast my first skill, and I was able to land my freeze effect. I just did it again. I was able to land the time freeze effect in addition to the stun and the bind effect on his skill. So that's another reason why the first skill having an iframe ignore is especially powerful for Doctor Strange, even for characters like Adam Warlock who have time freeze resistance. They will not be they won't be able to resist the bind and snare effect or stun of Doctor Strange's first skill unless they have a debuff leadership. So I'm going to show you again. I'm going to do the exact same fight. It's kind of hard to see at full speed. This time we're going to do any other skill, and you're going to see that I just won't be able to do any of these other skills. When he starts to do, okay, well, that time he didn't, but we can show you with another character. As soon as Thor starts doing something, Thor doesn't actually have a lot of iframes, so it's not really all that easy to trigger, but with Jean Grey we should be able to. So right now she's in an iframe. Okay, that wasn't helpful. Iframe. Okay, the iframes for Jean Grey are either short or long, so we're just really going to need to wait for an opportunity. And you can see there I did get snared myself, but if I hadn't gotten snared I would have been able to show you guys. It is quite difficult to trigger multiple times in order to show you guys, but I can assure you that it's there. And we're going to do one more so you guys can see, but it really is a power move by Doctor Strange to be given this buff, and I think it really should have been advertised by Netmarble, because even at the full price of the uniform, which is now I think 750 crystals, or it might possibly be more, it's definitely worth it with this new effect. So we're going to wait for him to do another skill. We just need you to do, yeah, so he doesn't want to do an iframe. We're just gonna have to jump into the next fight and see if we can get him to actually do it. Alright, this time around we're definitely going to get it. So, okay, iframe, and you can see here he should under no circumstances be targetable. But not only was he targetable, I froze him and he wasn't able to do damage. Now if I try to use his other skills, Doctor Strange's other skills, I can't. I can only use his 5th skill as soon as he comes out of the iframe. And we're going to see here he's going to do hopefully another iframe. And here we go again. I can interrupt him. And I froze him. I died, but you can see very clearly there that when Thanos went into the portals for the iframe, my Doctor Strange's first skill still worked. But when I went in with any, or when he disappeared and I tried to trigger any other skill, 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, 4, 5, I was unable to do so. And this is a really powerful effect. So for those of you that are using Doctor Strange in Timeline Battle, and for those of you that are manually using him, definitely take this and use it to your advantage, because it's a big power move and it's a big buff, and it does make him a lot better at killing pretty much everyone, especially characters that have iframes. You can just straight up interrupt their iframes, and this also works for world bosses. So in the case of Corvus, now you wouldn't necessarily use Doctor Strange for Corvus, so this example is not the best in terms of the functionality for this fight. But in the future, if we get other world boss ultimates that have lots of iframes, we still have, you know, a few to be unlocked anyways, like world boss ultimate Thanos or Scarlet Witch. Then this ability of Doctor Strange might come in a lot more handy, because it'll allow him to deal damage where otherwise he wouldn't be able to, because the enemy was iframing and kind of just draining out the clock. So I'm going to show you guys with just a regular team up. I don't want to give Doctor Strange too much of a buff here. Actually, I need to give him ignore dodge, right? He gives himself 20%, so this should be enough with his leadership. But I can show you here that it works basically everywhere, and Corvus is one of the more annoying bosses when it comes to iframes and losing your targeting. So while it's not a huge buff in terms of the amount of damage you'll be able to do to Corvus, it does help you to just consistently put out more damage, and it also will help you to apply, if you can apply, of course, time freeze, and that's kind of the more valuable part of having... I'm gonna die. Hey, really quickly, I know I just died, and we'll get back to the Doctor Strange iframe ignore action in just a second, but I wanted to let you guys know, in case you were curious, I got Deadpool's potential up to 96% today, so there is literally no possible way that I could miss his potential tomorrow, which means that tonight's live stream, approximately 9 hours or 8 hours after this video goes live, will be when I attempt to get Deadpool tier 3. That's right, tonight's live stream on Twitch. So if you want to see that live before it goes up on YouTube later on, if you want to see all the suffering of me wasting all of my resources, gold, Mcron crystals, phoenix feathers, getting his potential up to level 70, and then trying to get his gears to 25 to try to tier 3 him, make sure you're on Twitch tonight. Thanks, guys. Okay, so let's try this one again, and the iframe ignore on the first skill will definitely come in more handy when you're doing a fight against a boss, in this case, that has more iframe ignore, or more iframes than you can deal with, so that you can... So here he's gonna iframe for sure, and you can see I can hit him when he's iframing, and not only did I hit him, but I froze him mid-attack, so he actually wasn't able to attack me. And so in that case, if you were about to die, you could actually just interrupt him and save yourself literally from dying. Now, of course, this is unique to Doctor Strange because of the very powerful crowd control effect that he has, but it makes him a lot more threatening because he's always pushing that time freeze, and now the only defense that you thought you had against him, if you don't have characters with debuff, i.e., you know, getting rid of the time freeze, was iframes, and now those iframes are not going to save you. So I actually want to show you one more pretty lengthy iframe that Corvus goes through. It's a couple of moves after this where he's going to kind of disappear and reappear repeatedly, and he kind of stabs you and bleeds you. So this is a really long iframe for him, and it's a really good example of this is the one. And you can see here that I'm able to hit him. His bar is going way down. We're going to do it again, and I actually pushed him into the next phase of his battle, or of this battle, because of the fact that I was able to. He's going to iframe here, and I'm going to... No, couldn't interrupt him there. I'm not sure why. But otherwise, you can see that this works on world bosses. It works in PvP. It will also theoretically work in Alliance Conquest. Now, of course, it's a lot harder to measure whether that's going to work at all in Conquest because of the fact that it's a game mode that is, you know, non-playable. It's autoplay by the AI, but it is something that you can take into consideration, and it's also something that you should take into consideration when fighting enemy Doctor Stranges with that new uniform. Lastly, I want to just show you guys what it really looks like on different characters, because Doctor Strange is one example, but there are a lot of other examples, and of course the most notable one being Nova. And just so you can really get a grasp on how powerful this effect can be, especially if down the line this effect remains on the character, but they decide to buff him again or give him a different uniform altogether. If this effect remains, and if it's not specific to the uniform or unique to the uniform, then it's really going to make the character a nightmare to fight against. So I can just basically one-shot any character in the game with Nova's second skill. You can see there, well, I died, but I was attacking Jean Grey during her iframe, and maybe these examples haven't been the best at times, but overall I think you get the idea and you get the application of the iframe ignore, especially in PvP modes. And for those of you that have Doctor Strange's uniform, maybe for those of you that felt like it wasn't a great enough investment before, hopefully you'll have a greater appreciation for it, and maybe we'll see a few more Doctor Stranges in timeline, especially this week, because there is no restriction, and you know, you can kind of choose who you want from the nightmare list of top PvP contenders. So let me know what you guys think of this very pleasant surprise as far as Doctor Strange's new first skill on his new uniform goes. Let me know if you think that this makes the steal that we got his uniform for even crazier, because if you remember, it was originally on sale for 350 crystals when it came out. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if there are any other uniforms or any other skills that are changed that no one remembered or no one caught in the last couple of updates that we still haven't discussed, because I would love to discuss more of them. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. Hit the bell if you don't want to miss any of my videos. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.